Yeah, unspeakable horrors out of Gaza. Netanyahu is in Washington while these unspeakable horrors out of Gaza shredded, actually beheaded children. A journalist burned alive in his tent. The execution of 14 rescue workers, all on camera. A depraved Western leadership has clearly concluded Gaza must be sacrificed to preserve a so called Jewish state, along with all the influence it brings to bear on them. Wow. Okay. Yeah, pretty bad images. I don't like to. I don't retweet them. I can't because I don't. I can't even look at them myself. But they're horrible images. And whatever the side you're on, or whoever whatever you believe, that those images are horrible. You can't support that. Always better way than that. Trust me. All right, next post. This is kind of the theme we've been saying the last few days is about foreign-born MPs. Now, we don't have a rule in Canada that says you can't run as an MP if you're born in other country other than Canada. And obviously, there wasn't a need for that because in the past there was a lot of people that were born in England, for instance, and they came to Canada, and then they ran in Parliament, or they were Lord in England, and they ran in Parliament. Who knows? Whatever. So there was never a need, but and I'm not the point I'm trying to make is times change, and you got to adjust with the changes. And the point is, we have a scandal in Parliament where 11 MPs that haven't been named are suspected of being involved with foreign interference by foreign governments. No names, nothing. Then we have all these foreign-born MPs or candidates running for office, and some of them barely can speak English. And if you say anything, and what's happening in a lot of these ridings is you have this ethnic enclave, and they basically own the riding. They say who's going to be the candidate, and it's getting ridiculous here. That happens with the Chinese community, happens with the Indians, and I don't think it's too much to ask. There's 338 MPs in Parliament. I don't think it's too hard to ask that all 338 should have been born in Canada. I'm not saying it'll eliminate foreign interference, but it will, reduce the chances of it at least, because, you can't be born in another country and then come and, it's not working out apparently. So here we go. Bob Dosanjh Singh, born in India, immigrated to Canada, is now running as a candidate in Brampton East. In his video, he complains about crime in a city that is 90% non-Canadian, criticizing the chaos that his own South Asian community helped create after flooding in through weak, woke, liberal immigration policies. So he's a conservative, too. I gotta watch this video, because he barely can speak English, this guy. Oh, hold on.
Conservative Member of Parliament here.
Right.
Hello, my name is Bob Dosanjh Singh, and I am running to be your Conservative Member of Parliament here in Brampton East. Repeat offenders are being arrested and released on bail the same day. It is happening right here in Brampton. In fact, nearly 1 in 5 violent crimes in Canada are now committed by someone out on bail. After 10 years of Liberal government in Ottawa, it is time for a change. Pierre Poilievre is demanding bail reform so violent repeat offenders stay behind bars, not out roaming our streets. The Conservative plan is simple: jail, not bail, for serious and repeat criminals. As your MP, I will fight to protect our families and neighborhoods. Enough is enough. Let's bring safety back to Brampton. On April 28th, vote for me, Bob the San Singh, and the Conservative Party here in Brampton East to put Canada first for a change.
All right. I'm sure the guy's, I don't know, maybe he's not a bad guy. I don't know. But come on, man. Like, the guy, he was probably reading cards. Like, I don't even think he knows English. The point is he's in Canada. He can do whatever he wants in Canada. If you say, oh, the one job you can't do is be an MP, I think he'll survive. But it's getting ridiculous. And this is conservative and liberal. They basically own the riding. And they say, this is our candidate. So how many more ridings are going to turn into that? And the Chinese, they have the same ownership of ridings going. And that's why we had that Chinese MP had to resign for being involved in Chinese politics. So yeah, we definitely need a rule that you have to be born in Canada, run for parliament. It's getting ridiculous. Every day I'm seeing now. It's like, it's getting out of control. All right. Just say, hey, sorry. 338 seats available. It's got to be reserved for Canadian-born citizens. I think it's totally fair. All right. Next post. This is the poll where we show, or nanos? Yeah, they're doing like a daily poll. And, yeah, it shows sorry guys. So yeah, it shows a poll, the tightening race between the Liberals and Conservatives, 5 points about. I don't know, about 6 points. And the NDP reaches a numeric low. PPC is almost at 2%. Whoa. So yeah, it should be. I still think it's all predetermined. I think this is just theater we're watching right now. 3 weeks of this. Oh my God. It's mind numbing almost. But some interesting things to ponder. And then there's some more pictures. Yeah, we were talking about this with Gaza. Yeah, hopefully Trump puts a stop. I don't know. I don't think he will. Horrible stuff. Oh. I've just been seeing a lot of this on my feed today. I react to what I see. That's pretty bad. That's a bit of overkill for a few Hamas guys. Oh, they left the one building standing. This is poor NDP. The NDP campaign is broke. They got no money, which is, the sign of the times. But Jagmeet Singh has just driven this party to the ground. Like, he's totally made it like a woke joke and alienated a lot of the base. I bet you anything, a lot of the working class traditional NDP. Not all, but I bet a lot went to PPC or other parties because, like, he's a joke. Look at this guy. He's in some church basement or something. So at this point, I'm certain Jagmeet has made a deal with Carney and the Libs. Tank the party in return for something. I'm just not sure what it could be yet. He's not even trying. Strange photos with the dog people. Using OnlyFans influencers, and it's purposeful. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre watching it, but when you have no money, but you're still got a little media coverage, you got to show them something, right? And this is it. Let's see what he's saying there. The good thing about this election is it'll be the last one we'll have to deal with Jagmeet Singh. I'm pretty sure.
Living challenges that lots of folks relate to. So, what's your story around talking about housing and mental?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Claire.
Lisa Roberts.
So yeah, I've lived in Halifax for about 4 years now.
Right.
I'm originally from the South Shore.
Okay.
Oh, God. So, yeah, he's tanked that party. And I'm not, I'm not a big MDP supporter, but I don't think he could have done a much worse job as an NDP leader. It'll be interesting to see who they pick next because the party's in trouble, big trouble. Okay. Canada needs to ban foreign people from Parliament. This is getting ridiculous. Oh. Yeah, okay, here's another post about a foreign born MP. This is the guy replacing the Chinese MP that had to quit for joking about giving up his other Chinese opponent, who's a conservative candidate, giving him up to the Chinese for a bounty. So this guy, the guy singing, is the replacement to run as for the Liberals. So he's singing at some Chinese event, whatever. But apparently he was deputy police chief of Toronto for a long time. He was born in China, but he's been here for a while. But still, they own these ridings, it looks like. But if you just have a rule, it'll never happen anyway. But if you have a rule saying no foreign-born MPs, you don't have to worry. You don't have to wonder. All right. I just started noticing how many foreign MPs we have, and then it kind of coincides with the foreign interference levels increasing. It just it's like it's kind of connected. All right. All right, next. Since COVID is in the news a little bit, say the COVID trials, say almost everything. This is Tom Murat responding to the Liberal Party. Almost everything you said about the Freedom Convoy in this video is false, except for one thing. You opposed it, and that much is true. Your party mishandled the COVID response from day one, imposing policies that disrupted and devastated the lives of millions of Canadians. For 2 long years, people endured the consequence of your government's overreach until they finally stood up and said enough. All right. By publishing this video, you've only reinforced how deeply out of touch and hostile your party is towards the very people you claim to represent. All you've done is remind your party needs to disappear from Canadian politics entirely. He's talking about the Liberals, of course. Conservative voters don't answer polls. You're going to be blindsided in this next election, not because of campaign strategy or messaging, but because Canadians have seen how evil, cruel, and dishonest your leadership truly is. Yeah, I can't stand the Liberals.
Act inquiry.
Let's see, this
the
guy
former Prime Minister recognized that.
This guy is I think he's the head of the Liberal Party, which is not surprising.
For those living in Centertown, the so-called Freedom Convoy brought anything but freedom. It brought chaos, sleepless nights, and it quickly escalated into a waking nightmare. For weeks, residents felt abandoned, not just by the province and the city, but by the federal government too. Instead of standing up for what was right, Pierre Poilievre played the convoy's unofficial coffee boy, showing up with donuts for the same truckers who kept people awake. with
Yeah, he was
non-stop
barely
calls.
there, to be honest.
His own conservative leadership rival said Pierre's support for the convoy disqualified him from being prime minister. I agree.
Liberal
Let me be
Jean
clear.
Charest.
Peaceful protest is a right. But when there are threats to our residents and businesses, that's not peaceful, and that's when I knew I had to speak up.
4 weeks in a row. For 4
The sun-
weeks in a row, Mr. Speaker. Order.
I spoke up in the House of Commons every single day on behalf of my community. And during his testimony at the Emergencies Act inquiry, the former Prime Minister recognized that advocacy.
Mr. Naqvi says, very dire. Community feels under siege. You can imagine number of trucks, rigs, honking.
I was proud to be one of the earliest and strongest voices in government calling for the Emergencies Act, despite the torrent of harassment online and in person. And in the end, it was the federal government that stepped up because we refused to abandon Centertown. The courts now have formally recognized that Ottawa Centre residents have known all along that convoy organizers knowingly prolonged a protest that caused real harm to our community. Yes, it's a moment of redemption for us all, but the work isn't done until we hold the politicians who cheered them on accountable. Stand up for Canada, vote today.
All right. Okay, I made a mistake. I think this guy is, let's look at this guy. So it looks like he's running as an MP. So, Yasser Naqvi. Let's see. He talks about the convoy like that. You know, they did do some good. What's his name again? Naqvi. I forgot his name already. Yasser Naqvi. Let's see where this guy's born. What far off land was this? Pakistan. He was born in Pakistan. He was born and raised in Karachi, Pakistan, and immigrated to Canada with his family after his father was jailed for 9 months. His family moved to the United Kingdom, sending him to London for a short time. In 1988, at the age of 15, Naqvi settled in Niagara Falls. Okay, good for him, but don't need this guy. He can't even speak English. He's going to tell me about the Freedom Convoy. There you go, another foreign-born MP. Ridiculous, man. This is becoming a joke. I'm not saying he can't grow up in Canada and be a lawyer, do whatever, but stay away. Don't be lecturing us. Go back to Pakistan if you're going to lecture us on this. Tom is right. It's like every MP, especially in the GTA, is born in some far-off land, and then they come here to become MPs. All right. Next election thing. So he was the MP for Ottawa Centre, which makes perfect sense. Yasser Naqvi, whatever. I'll honk my horn anytime I want. Now we have Mark Carney. I don't know what he's trying to look like. He's trying to be funny here. I think the Conservatives have a lot more serious things they could attack him with than this, but I think this is just, he's trying to do a Trump impression of being funny with the crowd. Probably doesn't work. I didn't find it that funny, but I found it when he's talking about Ford going on Fox, so maybe I did find it funny. Let's listen.
And we're fighting the Americans in the pocketbook. We have retaliatory tariffs on them. We just hit them again in the auto sector. We're fighting them on Fox News, which is what they understand. We're sending Doug Ford onto Fox News to show them that we're not messing around up here. And we're going to send Danielle next. Maybe we won't send her. We're going to send Danielle. No. Maybe we won't. We won't send Danielle. We're going to keep her. No. Keep her, no. No, that's a bad idea. Forget. Strike that. Strike that. Just ignore that back there. So we.
So yeah, I don't know what the exact context. He's trying to be funny or just I don't know. But Doug Ford, they're saying he made Doug Ford look like he's making fun of Doug Ford, but he's also belittling Danielle, and she was kind of like, hey, this is what a strong woman is, and this every time these liberals see a strong woman, they tear her down, and she's kind of right. She's not wrong on that one. They're all pro woman, and then when they actually get a woman who's tells them what she thinks of them, they start belittling her. Maybe she's got a point, I guess. But I think this is just his failed attempt at comedy. But we'll see. 3 weeks, lots can change. And here's a warning from Tucker. And sometimes maybe he knows more behind the scenes. He knows a lot of people. So when he puts out a tweet like this, I pay attention, and it could be totally wrong. But he says, whatever you think of tariffs, it's clear that now the worst possible time for the U.S. to participate in a military strike on Iran. We can't afford it. Thousands of Americans would die. We'd lose that war that follows. Nothing would be more destructive for our country. Yet we're closer than ever, thanks to unrelenting pressure from neocons. This is suicidal. Anyone advocating for conflict with Iran is not an ally of the United States, but an enemy. So he seems to be ringing the alarm bell on a possible strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, which would be like, it'd be a big strike because they're buried underground. So maybe he's totally wrong, but he knows a lot of people in Washington, so maybe he's hearing a lot of stuff, and he had to put this post out. He's got a lot of followers, too. Hopefully they don't. Like I said, Trump likes to talk big, and then he never drops no bombs. But if he starts bombing Iran, that's a big deal. I don't think he will, but he could. Next post. Jerry Butts, one of Justin Trudeau's most senior advisors, is always within arm's reach from Carney. Does this look like change? Carney is just Trudeau 2.0. And Butts worked with Carney's wife at the Eurasia Group in New York. Very globalist think tank. So, of course, he's going to be hanging out with Carney. Yeah, if anything, it'll be liberals on steroids because Carney's a lot more competent than Justin Trudeau. So, if you give him the keys in a majority government, he might, he will be, I think he'll implement the globalist agenda much more ruthlessly than Trudeau, because Trudeau was just a dummy. And Jerry will be right there with him. We're getting all the Eurasia advice. Next post here. Oh my gosh. Another foreign-born candidate. We talked about this. Retired Toronto Deputy Police Chief Peter Yuen, who last year joined the board of an organization flagged for Chinese foreign interference, has been chosen by the Liberals to replace Paul Chang as candidate. So, yeah, foreign-born MP maybe getting that Chinese money. But, can't talk about it. It'll never happen anyway. They'll never ban foreign-born MPs. Look, it's all I see on my feed is foreign-born MPs. I'm sorry. I'm not looking for them. I didn't say, I'm going to get up today and look up, ask Rock how many foreign-born MPs there are. It just keeps showing up on my phone. Here's another one. Gary Anandasanjari. He's Tamil, I believe, or Sri Lankan. So he's a cabinet minister, I think. What is he? What the hell is he? minister. What is he? He's the Minister of Northern Affairs and Indigenous Relations. Okay. All right. And he's born in Sri Lanka.
Party candidate in the riding of Scarborough. Hi there, this is Gary Anandasangari, your Liberal Party candidate in the riding of Scarborough, Guildwood, Rouge Park. I've been knocking on doors now for over a week, and one of the things that people are telling me is that they're not going to be here either on the advance polls weekend or on election day itself, which is on April the 28th. Those who are not going to be here, we have good news for you. You can go and vote at the Elections Canada polling station, which is situated.
Like I said, I just keep getting foreign-born MPs. Gary is another foreign-born candidate and current MP and cabinet minister. Yes. Okay, here's this COVID story. There's Randy Hillier puffing on taking a big drag. They made us smoke in those times. I was smoking too. I didn't like it. All right. COVID-19 rules barring protests in 2021 were unconstitutional, Ontario's top court. We've got to read this. There's so many court cases with the COVID, I'm having trouble keeping track of them. So, Ontario MPP Randy Hillier smokes a cigarette as he speaks with the media before turning himself in at the Ottawa Police Services headquarters. March 28th. I would smoke if I'm turning myself into police, I'd smoke a cigarette too. Ontario top court has ruled the provincial restrictions of gatherings that prohibited peaceful protests for several weeks during the COVID-19 pandemic were unconstitutional. Made the finding today in a case brought by former Ontario legislator Randy Hillier, who faced several charges for organizing or hosting protests against pandemic measures while the rules were in effect in the spring of 2021. Hillier appealed after the judge who heard his application found that while the limits on gatherings did infringe on his right to peaceful assembly, they were justified and constitutional. The three-judge appeal panel unanimously found the application judge incorrectly applied the necessary legal tests in coming to that conclusion. No evidence the province ever considered an exemption for outdoor political protests. Anyway. So what does this mean? I mean, it looks like that was during like the height of things when they're going nuts. So it's just basically saying one little part of the COVID thing was unconstitutional. They need more rulings like that. So Randy beat his charges, it looks like. That's good. He's probably spent a lot of money on lawyers. All right. There's the picture today. Donald Trump holding Netanyahu's chair. Everybody's looking at that, making their own, pushing it in there like a good boy. Sometimes you wonder, is he make him? Did they make him do it? Is there humiliation, or is Trump playing games with Netanyahu, or is Netanyahu playing games with him? Who knows? It's pretty weird how he does that, especially when Trump talks all tough, like he's the alpha male, and then he does something like that. It's kind of weird. It's perplexing. And there's Danielle Smith responding to Mark Carney's comedy routine.
Woman, and so this is a pretty consistent
joke during the campaign.
Well, I've noticed this with progressive men, how much they talk about how much they support women until they meet a strong conservative woman. And so this is a pretty consistent type of approach that I've seen, not only from the current Prime Minister, but the former one as well. And the attitude is, sit down and shut up. Well, I don't shut up. I make sure that Albertans know exactly how I feel about issues, and I'm going to continue advocating on behalf of my province, whether he likes it or not.
Wow. Wow. She took that. Like, understandably, they were probably, it wasn't very conciliatory, especially since after the election, Carney, let's say if Carney does win the election, he's going to have, he's got a lot of work to do to get Alberta's ready to vote for independence, so he's got his work cut out for him. So the last thing he needs to do is making comments like that about the Alberta Premier. So, yeah, definitely a frosty relationship, but that's the thing with the election is there's lots of what ifs after, like if Pierre wins or if Carney wins. But definitely the relationship with Alberta will be very tenuous with the liberal government, re-elected liberal government, especially with the policies, the way they're going. Next post. Tom Quiggin, warning for Canadians. Please share for wide distribution. If Mark Carney becomes Prime Minister this month, Canadian podcasters, independent journalists, and those who post on social media will have to seriously reconsider what they say or print. Carney's government will be like that of PM Starmer in the United Kingdom. The government is arresting approximately 30 people a day for social media posts. I'm pretty sure I'd be one of those people. People have been jailed for more than 2 years for postings that did not advocate violence but did run contrary to the whims of the government. This is the process of normalizing jail for anyone who opposes approved government narratives and their protected minorities. Carney will be more aggressive in silencing opposition voices than Trudeau has been for the last 10 years. This is obvious in the way he treats the media now. He does treat them really snarkily. The preferred media get privileged treatment while the blocked media are denied any access. Canadians can expect another bill from Parliament similar to Bill C-63. This act would place... Yeah, they dropped that bill when the Parliament was prorogued and dissolved. So that was in the pipeline about the Online Harms Act. So this act would place significant restrictions on internet speech related to hate and harmful content, backed by a range of punishments from fines and compensation to life imprisonment, while establishing new and arbitrary regulatory bodies to enforce these measures. So an internet police, basically. Most critically, anonymous complaints will be able to file grievances and then share in the fines collected. Yeah, that's just... If you can't put your name to a complaint, you need to shut up. All right. Normalization of paid government snitches to ferret out non-improved narratives. Lots of those around. Who will establish these government-approved narratives? The approved government narratives will be established by the Prime Minister, PMO, and government-funded media. This primarily means the CBC, which he just said he's going to give a bunch more money to, but will include others such as the CTV and Global, which are basically on life support, liberal money, or our money, but those who stay within the boundaries of the government narrative will remain safe. Those who challenge the narrative by pointing out lies, inconsistencies, fraud, or theft will be attacked and gradually destroyed. Those most likely to be targeted will be those who dare use hate speech. In other words, it's probably half my account. If you point out that a member of a government-approved privileged minority is involved in criminal or dangerous activities, I wonder who that could be, you will be destroyed by government-funded lawfare. This is the future of Canada, be warned. And I like this picture here. Carney looking a little dictatorial there. And then the cameras everywhere. In UK, they got cameras everywhere. And they do. They arrest people for social media posts. Like, come on, man. There's people getting stabbed on the street. So, I said this before. He's Carney. I call him. He's an ultra globalist. So basically, I think he believes in it, and he's very smart and competent, and much more than Trudeau. So he's been put in to close a deal. You know, that's his job. And yeah, I have no doubt he would go nuts on this. Pierre probably not as much. Pierre would probably go down the anti-Semitism road, like do like a law against anti-Semitism, and then apply it to anybody they don't like. So it's the same idea. But so if you see what's going on in the States, like Donald Trump campaigned on free speech, but now they're cracking down on anti-Semitism. So once you start cracking down on that, then what else are they going to crack down on? Like basically anything. So it's the same idea. But Mark Carney's more dedicated, it seems. All right, next post here. This is the York Regional Police released footage of arrests made in relation to Richmond Hill home invasion. So we've been talking a lot about a lot about home invasions in the GTA and how, you know, they're a bad sign of like collapsing society. So the police apparently they caught some people and they decided to show it. Show they're doing something.
I'm moving in. You guys, I'll take the Jag. I need someone to take the BMW as well.
Let's get a bit closer.
Cinch up.
Right on top.
We're with you. Go take the Beamer.
Get in there. Right on top.
Jag's on the move. Jag's on the move.
Yeah, we gotta follow this Jag. They're stuck.
Air 2, stay with the Jag.
All right.
Okay, Jag's done. Lots of runners.
Runners.
Here, you two, Air 2, can you call it out for Keenan?
Air 2. Multiple people in custody, it looks like. I'm just trying to see if anybody's outstanding.
22, we got all 5 in custody.
Nice.
You're excellent.
All right. So there's some footage. 4 men, 1 male youth arrested. Firearm was also recovered. And I'm like, are they out on bail yet? Because, like, that all looks good and dandy. Like, cleaning up the streets. But they're going to be out on bail. Their cases are going to be in court for years. And they'll probably be back to their old tricks. Throw away the key on home invaders. That's what I say. All right. We're in the Great Reset. Next post. So, I'm thinking like this tariff thing and this whole thing that Trump's doing with Canada and all the other countries. You know, he never talked about this during the election. Didn't come up at all. And out of the blue, it comes up in not just Canada, but Mexico and every other country. You know, the China thing, he always complained about China, so that's no surprise. But everything else was. And I always thought, you know, there's more to this than they're letting on. There's more of this than we know, than that we're aware of. And it makes sense. Like, we're in the fourth turning. We're in that 100-year cycle. We're in that next phase of the global economic system, like a new system emerging. So it makes sense. Maybe this is all part of that happening. Big things happening, especially the elites know before we do. It's like, and it filters out to us when they want it to, or when we're ready for it, let's say. So Ray Dalio, who I read his book, he's a billionaire, he's a really good investor, I guess. I liked his book. It's very easy to read, and he's like, he's kind of echoing what I was thinking, but he gives a little more legitimacy because he's very more successful, I guess. And he's a smart guy, so he's like, don't make the mistake of thinking that what's now happening is mostly about tariffs. So like everybody's focused on the tariffs, right? And I hope this is not a lot. I thought that was because he wrote a book basically on how the rise and fall of these systems in the States is kind of like at the end of their cycle. Huge amount of attention is being justifiably paid to the announced tariffs and their big impacts on markets and economies, while very little attention is being paid to the circumstances that cause them and the biggest disruptions that are likely still ahead. All right. All right. The far bigger, far more important thing to keep in mind is that we are seeing a classic breakdown of the major monetary, political, and geopolitical orders. This sort of breakdown occurs only about once in a lifetime, but they have happened many times in history when similar unsustainable conditions were in place. So basically, like I said, the reset is coming. It happens. It's like the end of a cycle. So hold on. And usually it's pretty crazy before the new thing. So monetary economic orders breaking down because there's too much existing debt. The rates of adding to it are too fast in existing capital markets, and economies are supported by this instant. So basically, everybody owes money, even households, personal credit cards. You don't even want to know what people owe on their credit cards. That's just the people. There's government. There's so much debt. It's never going to get paid. So it's unsustainable debt. Okay. Big pressures for these imbalances to be corrected one way or another, and doing so will change the monetary order in major ways. For example, it is obviously incongruous to have both large trade imbalances and large capital imbalances in a deglobalizing world in which the major players can't trust that the other major players won't cut them off from items they need. All right, so this is against globalization. Self-sufficiency is of paramount importance. So basically, he's talking very complicated stuff here, but he's basically saying the old way of having us buying our stuff from China is ending. It's too much difference, trade difference, imbalance. So the hollowing out of American manufacturing is a result. So domestic, so we got that, and then the domestic political orders breaking down to huge gaps in people's income gaps. So breakdown in the domestic sphere, and then the international geopolitical world orders breaking down because of the area of one dominant power that dictates the order of the other countries' fall is over. Multilateral cooperative world order that the U.S. led is being replaced by a unilateral power rules approach. In this new order, the U.S. is still the largest power in the world and is shifting to a unilateral America First approach. We are now seeing that manifest in the U.S.-led trade war, geopolitical war, technology war, and in some cases, military wars. Anyway. So basically he's saying this tariff thing is just a start. Like, everything's changing. The whole monetary system that we grew up with is all going to change. So buckle up. It's a little complicated, but I've read this too. Next post here is this guy who's got caught spray painting the boxed up John McDonald statue in Toronto, and now he's facing 2 years jail time for spray painting Free John on the plywood. I'm like, wow. And it's like the court system's so clogged up with cases. like violent cases too, and they're wasting on this guy. Let's see what he says.
Sir John A. Macdonald, who unified the colony.
I'm downtown outside the courthouse where Daniel Tate might be facing 2 years in jail for spray painting a piece of plywood. Inside the plywood was a statue of Sir John A. Macdonald at Queen's Park. And I noticed on the drive down here that your message, Free John, has since been covered up.
The real ridiculous irony of this all is after I was held for 2 hours in a dusty sort of basement cell at Queen's Park, and they let me go, as I was walking home, it had already been painted over.
Wow.
So the groundskeeper at Queen's Park was dispatched, probably one coat of paint, and it was already gone. So the whole thing is just utter insanity. Our founding father of our nation, Sir John A. Macdonald, who unified the colonies, created the amazing intra-provincial railway to connect the provinces, and it resonates today because even today there's issues between commerce and trade between the provinces. This is all metaphorical and symbolic, that the one man who had the vision 160, 70, 80 years ago to have a unified country is being boxed up, and the person who's trying to free him and defend his honor is being persecuted by the state.
I'll be posting the full interview and the full report tonight, so stay tuned.
Yeah, that's so ridiculous. Like, nothing from Doug Ford under his watch. Nothing. You think this would be like red meat for Pierre Poilievre to say, look at this. This is under my prime minister. John A. Macdonald won't be boxed up. You know, like something like that. But he won't say that because he has to poll it first. And like, I'm not letting Carney off the hook, but we already know how the Liberals feel. Like, they're post-national state and all that. So we don't have to worry about how. But, you know, Poilievre, he could. Maybe he has said something. I don't think so, but I think I would have heard it. Free John. We should go in there and have a bunch of axes from King Tire and just rip up that plywood. All right, next post. Elon Musk, smartest guy, richest guy in the world. He agrees with a lot of what I was saying. Mass immigration is insane and will lead to the destruction of any country that allows unfettered mass immigration. He's talking about Canada, I think. That country will simply cease to exist. Sounds like Canada or the UK. He might be talking about the UK, but I think he's probably referring to Canada as well. A country is its people, not its geography. This is a fundamental concept. Yeah. Well, Pierre's commercial, now I was just watching it here on the commercial. It said, Pierre's commercial. Like, we already know how the Liberals feel. But Pierre's is like, the Canadian promise means anyone from anywhere can do anything. And maybe you can interpret it, say, oh, he means Canadians. He's talking about Canadians can do anything. Well, he didn't say that. He just said the Canadian promise. So it's kind of a dumb thing to say, but it's basically Elon's confirming what I've been saying too. It's not racist at all. It's just demographics. It's numbers. That's all it is. And whoever thinks it's a good idea, not very bright. Let's see what he says.
The mass immigration is insane and will lead to the destruction of any country that allows unfettered mass immigration. That country will simply cease to exist. At the end of the day, it is a numbers game, a numbers situation. If there are 8 billion people in the world, and let's say you're a country of, 50 million, 60 million, or, for a medium-sized country, but even for a country like the United States, which is 350 million, given that there are 8 billion people in the world, it only takes a few percent of the rest of the world to move to the country to where it is no longer that country.
Yeah.
A country is not its geography. A country is its people. This is a fundamental concept. that is truly obvious. I mean, if you took the people of Italy and you teleported the people of Italy to, say, some part of the United States, it would still be Italy. But if you teleported a bunch of people from some other part of the world to Italy, where they're telling people no longer because they've been teleported to America, then the region, the geographic region, would no longer be Italy. It would be that other country. A country is its people.
Yeah.
Not it.
So it sounds like he's talking about Canada. That's why I thought that was interesting. So that's Kyle Kemper. Very good warning message from Brother Tom. Uncle Mark and his friends will be merciless in assuring we only hear positive news about them. Yes. Kyle Kemper's actually related to Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau. What are the chances? He speaks out against them both. It's hilarious. I like this account shows all the sorts of chicanery on the 401. Now some dudes obviously didn't check his latch. I avoid the highway in Ontario for that reason. There's more bad, horrible footage from guys. I can't look at that. This I noticed. I'm looking at the betting odds for the Canadian election. I'm not like, I take it with a big grain of salt, but it's interesting. They got Carney up 73% chance of winning, and he made a good point here. Are Mark Carney's odds of winning so high because people legitimately think he's going to win the election, or is it because they think the game is rigged and he's already been selected? Or is it because bad faith actors are manipulating the market and boosting his numbers? It's a good question. Could be any of those. But I think it's rigged. We'll see. And this Pierre today, final note today, him and his wife took a ride on a racetrack with the Corvette, and they gave him the dumbest, weakest looking helmets they could find. And I just thought it was funny. It's like, it's not a very manly looking helmet. Damn it, Pierre. What are you thinking? And it says Pierre doing his impression of Rick Moranis and Spaceballs. But that's why I said headgear and elections are always a dangerous combination. I remember Gilles Duceppe. He was a Bloc leader, Quebec leader, and he wore a hairnet once at a factory, and they wouldn't leave him alone. It was like a very embarrassing picture. So I think he'll survive this one. And that's it. That was the day on X. Oh my God. So it's looking more and more like we need to avoid a Carney majority at all costs. It's going to be 3 weeks from now. We'll find out. We'll talk more tomorrow and see what's going on, what new developments there are. Until then, everybody have a nice night.